have you ever wondered what the differences are between a bank and a credit union?
And could you actually do financially better if you made the right choice?
Keep watching!
Money Smart Family.
Hey, before we get into this information with this credit union and banking expert, make sure you subscribe to our channel and hit the notification so that you know the next time we put up a video. And if you have any questions about the information we share, leave it in the comments below and we'll make sure to answer your question. We read every single one of them.
Today, we're sitting with our great friend, Jason Vitug. We're so excited you're here today. He is the founder of Frugal.com.
That's with a PH.
That's true. And the author of the book, You Only Live Once.
Jason worked for several years in the banking and credit union world and actually worked for a fairly good-sized credit union. We're going to ask him some questions that we know you're interested in and hopefully get some information that you can use to make better decisions about your bank life. So Jason, I mean, we're glad you're here and we know that you've lived in both worlds, the credit union world and the banking world. So tell us a little about your experience and what you learned there
and what your story is.
Yeah, give us your story.
That's awesome. Well, I started working in banking because I thought that's how people made money. So when I went to college...
All the rich bankers, you know.
Yeah,
Okay.
well, that's exactly what. Like, I went to college for film, graduated with a finance degree, and I was mentored to believe that money is made in the banking industry. So didn't know that that was really in Wall Street, so I went into commercial banking. And I started from the ground up. I started my banking experience from a teller all the way up to VP of Marketing and Business Development. So
Wow.
Total of 8.5 years in the banking and credit union world.
Wow, that's significant.
Today, you're still in that world?
No, I'm not. I started my own company, Frugal.com. That's with a PH, ROOGAL. I always have to spell that out because it's really important.
It's a
Now
cool
listen,
name!
You got a degree in finance, not in
Spelling.
spelling.
Not in spelling.
But we got a really cool logo, so
Yeah.
out of it. That's a great thing. But yeah, so I want people to understand that when I talk about personal finance or I talk about banking products and services, I have personal and professional experience with them. As a user, as also as a person that sold the products to
Right.
people and created products as well. So
Yes.
I was part of a team that created checking accounts, that looked at the different reward systems related to debit cards and credit cards. So I know a lot about these products and services as well as about the industry.
So what we want to do in this time we have together is really help our friends understand the differences so that they can make a choice as to which is better for them, whether it be a bank or a credit union, because obviously you know both. So what are the major differences between banks and credit unions?
So the main difference that I'd like to stress out is that a credit union is a non-for-profit financial cooperative. There's a big distinction. Because of that not-for-profit status, they're actually federally exempt from taxes.
Wow.
Yeah, that exemption allows them to invest that money back into the membership.
Nice.
So, yeah, with a credit union, you are a member, not a customer. So that's another distinction. And so the credit union philosophy is to give back and to make sure that you belong. And they give back in terms of better rates on auto, credit cards, as well as in your savings accounts. And so you're gonna get better rates on those savings accounts and those loans, and you're gonna pay little to no fees by using those accounts because of that savings they get from not being taxed.
Now in the banking world today with online banks, we're seeing a lot of them throw introductory interest rates that are really pretty high.
At least for savings
Yeah,
accounts.
yeah. Are credit unions competing with that? Or?
Can they compete with that?
And unfortunately, they cannot. So credit unions will often pay more than a traditional bank or a big bank. So you're definitely going to earn more with your money in a savings account, certificate account, or a money market account through a credit union when you compare it to a big bank. Now, when you're comparing it with those online-only banks, the online-only banks are going to win. And the reason why they win is that they don't have the infrastructure in terms of branches or
Yes, that makes
employees.
sense. Yep.
Yeah, so
And not everybody is a candidate for doing online banking. And so what we're talking about now is for our viewers that are interested in brick and mortar banks or brick and mortar credit unions. This is the area we're talking about. If you're into online and you really like that, that's okay. But we're doing that
It's a
comparison
different
of the
animal.
brick and mortar. the four main differences.
Yeah, so that first difference is that not-for-profit status, and I like to stress that out because that's where you get the vast majority of your benefits with a credit union because of the higher rates in savings, the lower rates in loans, and the low to no fees. That actually merges into where you're going to get a better return. As a member, and that's another difference between a bank and a credit union. So a bank may look at you as a purely profit motive, whereas a credit union is going to look at you at that membership aspect and say, how can we serve you better? Whereas they're not kind of trying to calculate like your dollar return.
I just wanted to ask, it sounds like you're saying the credit unions are really more personal, more concerned about us as individuals. So does that mean they have like events where, educational events, they'll have social events, are they doing that kind of thing? Is that...
They do, because they're ingrained within communities, both, let's say, within a geographic area or even online, they are concerned with providing financial literacy, financial education, and member events that gets their membership to engage together. So there is, the foundation of a credit union is really people helping people, and part of that is educating them. Now, banks do the exact same things. They'll go ahead and they'll offer financial education workshops and sessions, but the big difference is that banks fall under the CRA, which is the Community Reinvestment Act, where they're required by law to offer these financial education sessions.
I've never even seen those from our banks.
And with a credit union, it's part of their DNA. Their DNA really is to help people, to help their community, the communities that they serve, and they do that by offering financial literacy, financial education sessions without being required to do so. And so that's another important distinction.
So far we've got, they're not-for-profit, business versus a not-for-profit, and the second is that you've got membership, and membership always has privileges.
And third is that you have better interest rates at the credit unions. Okay, here, I have a question now. Many years ago, it was such that you could not be part of a credit union because they targeted specific groups for membership. Like there would be a teachers credit union or a military credit union, like there's Navy, Federal. So can anybody just walk up and be part of a credit union?
Yeah, I think one of the misconceptions about credit unions is that they're limited in terms of who can join. So pretty much anyone that's watching this video can join a credit union. So I want to stress that out because there is a credit union just for about any individual, but they do serve a specific group. Demographic, correct. And so that group could be military affiliation. It could be an employer affiliation, so if you work for a large corporation, there may be credit unions specific to that. And there's also credit unions that allow you to join and become a member if you live within a specific area or a zip code or a city.
Yep. Now, do you need to have a certain credit score to be part of a credit union?
No, you do not. And you actually put up that's a big point because people hear credit union and they focus on credit. And they think, oh, wait a minute, this has to do with a credit card or credit scores. And although they do offer credit, and that's kind of why they started, offering credit to people who normally would be turned down by big banks, you don't need a perfect credit score to join a credit union. That is not a requirement to join a credit union.
Now, a lot of people have maybe a misconception about credit unions that they aren't as safe as banks. Is that true?
Are they FDIC insured?
They're not FDIC insured.
What? Wait a second. They're not FDIC. Hold on. Just going to answer that question. You're going to be surprised.
Keep watching.
So this is actually the fourth difference between a credit union and a bank. They are insured, but they're not insured by the FDIC, which insures banks. They're insured by the NCUA.
You know, what does FDIC stand for? Since you worked in the banking world, I'm sure you know that.
That's a Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation.
Okay.
So
their money is guaranteed.
Guaranteed by a federal agency. So it's not the U.S. government. It's tied to the U.S. government. Okay. It's a private entity.
And that entity, FDIC, insures each bank account that we open for up to what amount?
$250,000.
It's now NCUA. NCUA, what does that mean?
So NCUA is the National Credit Union Administration.
Okay.
So they're the administration that oversees all federally chartered credit unions. And with the NCUA, they offer the National Credit Union Share Insurance Fund. So the
Let me pause you.
Yes.
So are there some credit unions that are not part of the NCUA, and how do I know?
So the vast majority of credit unions are part of the NCUA, so they follow the federally mandated rules and regulations, but they're not supervised within the NCUA. They may be supervised in a state level. So there's two distinctions I want to go over too, which is the difference between a federal credit union and a community credit union or state chartered credit union, because there's distinction there. But going back to NCUA, they set the standard that for federally chartered credit unions, but also many states follow them as well. And what they do is they offer the Share Insurance Fund, which is similar to the FDIC.
Okay. What are the limits on this share insurance fund?
And this is great news. It's $250,000 as well.
It's the same.
It's the same.
Okay.
Absolutely. And it works exactly how we describe the FDIC insurance in terms of how do you title your accounts.
Has the credit union NCUA ever had to pay out?
This is interesting because I actually did the research on this recently because I wanted to know as well. And they have in the past, but not at the rate as you would compare with banks do. So there are, like with anything with financial institutions, it's a business. So there is a chance for it to fail. But with the NCUA or FDIC, you can be at peace knowing that your money
You're going to get your money.
You're going to get your money.
Would it be safe to say that credit unions are, on the whole, more fiscally conservative than banks? But because they're member supervised, because they got the NCUA, and because you said that the percentage of them that failed was really smaller than
Correct.
what banks have done. Is that a safe thing to say?
It is a safe thing to say, and just to kind of tie that into my position, so as I mentioned, I started as a teller and I worked my way up to the executive suite, and so I had access to the budgeting and the line items. And so the one thing that is true from that question is that credit unions are a bit more conservative compared to banks, and because they are conservative, you see less failures when it comes to these banks, and then you see them growing or merging with other credit unions. And so one thing that I do want to point out, during the Great Recession in 2008, 2009, not one single member dollar was lost. And so as
That's awesome.
yeah, it's a really big distinction as well, considering what was happening within the banking industry, comparing that with
The whole investment world.
yeah, with the whole investment world,
Huge
credit union.
shakeup.
And also when you're looking at deposits, so when you make a deposit, that's a liability to a bank or a credit union. So whenever we take in a deposit, we know we have to pay you interest, and that interest is an expense. And so in order for us to recoup that expense, some of that is invested, but
Right.
because we are a credit union, it is closely monitored, and so we can't do what these banks were doing, which was
Junk bonds and things.
they were investing, in all these different types of bonds and programs and funds that were basically really betting to see if they can make a massive return, and that's how they lost money.
What are some of the things that maybe people make mistakes when they join a credit union of not utilizing all the resources, or just mistakes people make in credit unions as a consumer?
The big mistake that credit union members do is that they don't fully utilize all the products and services the credit union offers. So they'll hear great things about a credit union, and then they'll open up a checking account. But then when they're looking for a credit card, they go online and they get a credit card from a major bank as opposed to the credit card that's being offered with the credit union, because credit unions offer pretty much every single product you can get with a traditional bank. The interest rates are going to be lower if you happen to be that person that's carrying a balance from month to month.
So if you need to carry a balance for some reason and you're working on getting out of debt, it might be wise to roll from a big bank rewards card with higher interest down to a credit union card,
Lower interest.
to help you pay that off faster.
So Jason, you mentioned, knowing about the inner workings And you were talking about marketing dollars with credit unions.
Yes.
Share a little bit more about that.
So our marketing budget was so small, and we wanted to make sure that it was really effective. And a lot of that has to do with, because it's a member dollar, it's not just a customer, and so we wanted to make sure that that money was spent wisely. So that's a detriment to credit unions. When you're focused on where that $1 is going, you tend not to make the investments that's necessary. So a lot of people go, well, I've heard of credit unions, but I don't think I have any around me, or I'm not eligible to join one. Well, that's because credit unions don't spend a lot of money on marketing. And credit unions, they really grow from word of mouth. Some of them are doing really great marketing, and they've learned in order to serve their members better, we do need to spend some money. That to me is a message to all the credit unions out there that want to attract members, as well as those who are looking to join a credit union, that you might need to do a little bit more work to find one in your area.
If you did an internet search, credit unions near me, and you had your zip code in there, the internet could provide a whole bunch in your area.
Oh, yeah.
So even though some people may think, well, they're not super convenient, they probably are now.
And it depends on the definition of convenience. Is convenience like walking into a branch, or convenience a mobile app? And this is kind of one of the misconceptions as well with credit unions, that they're not convenient. And although there might be some hurdles, they do offer some of the things that big banks do. I mean, you have the branches, and then you also have the mobile apps. Mobile apps that you can deposit
You can make a check deposit. You can scan the check and make a deposit.
You can scan a check, make a deposit. You can pay your bills through the app. So there's a lot of things that you can do with a credit union that you're able to do with a bank as well.
Okay, so in 1 minute, can you wrap up about the 4 differences?
So yeah, the 4 differences between credit unions and banks, and I want all of you to know these 4 differences between credit unions and banks. 1, you are a member, you are not a customer. So credit unions love to call themselves member owners. So you own a piece of the credit union as a member. Second, you get better rates in terms of higher rates on savings accounts, lower rates on loans, and little to no fees. The third is that you are insured with the National Credit Union Administration as opposed to the FDIC. And fourth, and what I see most importantly, the not-for-profit, that you are working for a financial cooperative as opposed to a corporate entity.
So did you ever watch the movie It's a Wonderful Life?
Yes, I have.
Okay, and you got Potter, who owns the bank.
Oh, yeah.
And then you got the Bailey Brothers Building and Loan. So Bailey Brothers, they had a heart. And that's what you're saying the credit unions are. They're more like that, although they only had Mama Dollar and Papa Dollar left. But
You better have a baby dollar real quick.
They didn't default on anything. They stood behind the people, and they had relationships with them. And that's kind of what we're talking about. It's more personal. It's more relational.
Yeah, so I wanted to add to your example from It's a Wonderful Life. What's really important is that when I was traveling around the world, I had 2 credit cards with me. I didn't want to use my debit card, so I wanted to use my credit cards because, as I'm sure, points, and also there's some benefits when you're traveling. Yeah, correct, protection. And so I had these 2 different credit cards, and this is a great example. I was out in the middle of nowhere in Thailand, and I had to use a internet cafe to access my accounts because both accounts got locked out. And
because they knew you were traveling.
They already knew I was traveling because I told them I am traveling, but of course there's some suspicious activity that they deemed was happening, and so they went and blocked my account, and I needed to contact them. And so here I am trying to call the major bank credit card line. I was having a really hard time, and I couldn't get them to unlock the account. Yes, in order for me to use that credit card.
Unreal.
And then so I went and I tried doing the exact same thing with my credit union credit card, and I was having the same problems at first because I was calling the 800 number that was on there. Then I realized, wait a minute, credit unions are smaller, they're people oriented, and I know because of how they operate, the moment I call into a branch or into a back office, they're going to solve this problem for me. I'm not going to be patched over to like a million departments. Yeah, so I went and I called the branch and I said, I'm in the middle of nowhere and my card And they're like, we just kind of need to verify all this information for you and we'll fix it. And it was set and done within a few seconds. I think that is one of the big factors that I truly believe people should have a credit union.
So, if you really enjoyed the information that Jason shared, and we did, I found, gosh, got all kinds of good information
Yes, very
that
good.
we didn't know. Check out his website, Frugal, PHROOGAL.com. And also, listen, I'm going to ask your help for our friend here. Would you go down to the show notes and we'll have a link to his YouTube channel and go subscribe and write him some notes. He's got some cool videos and he's got lots of
Right.
knowledge.
And if you have any questions, put a question in the comment, and Jason said he'd pop on the page and he'll interact with you. So make sure you fire off some questions.
And we're glad you're here.
Yes.
We're glad you're here. And thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe to our channel and watch these videos next.